There are forces in a man's life that are obvious: money, education, talent, opportunity. And then there are forces that are invisible but decisive, quietly shaping the ceiling of what he can become. Semen retention belongs to this second category. It is not merely a sexual practice, nor a moral rule, nor a spiritual superstition. At its deepest level, semen retention is a philosophy of energy, discipline, and direction. It determines the height of a man's life because it determines how he handles the most powerful creative force he possesses. Height, here, does not mean loud success or public fame. It means depth of character, clarity of mind, steadiness of purpose, and the ability to build something that outlives momentary pleasure. A man's life rises or collapses in direct proportion to how he treats his life force. What he preserves, what he wastes, and what he channels decides how high he can climb. Many men confuse intensity with elevation. They chase stimulation, excitement, and short-term victories, believing these experiences are signs of a full life. But height is not about how fast you move. It is about how solidly you are built. A skyscraper is not impressive because it rises quickly, but because its foundation is strong enough to support its height. Semen retention builds structure. It teaches a man to delay gratification, to withstand inner pressure without immediately releasing it. This capacity alone separates men who remain boys from men who become pillars. A man who cannot hold tension cannot hold responsibility. A man who cannot sit with desire cannot sustain vision. Every time a man retains, he practices staying upright under internal weight. Over time, this creates a psychological spine, an inner verticality. His life no longer spreads outward in shallow pleasures. It rises upward in focused growth. Across cultures, semen has been understood as condensed life energy. Ancient Taoists, yogis, and warrior traditions all recognize that sexual energy is not just for reproduction. It is fuel for consciousness, creativity, and strength. Modern language may strip this idea of its mysticism, but the reality remains. Ejaculation is not neutral. It costs the body nutrients, hormones, and nervous system charge. When done compulsively, it leaves a man depleted, foggy, and restless. When conserved and circulated through purposeful living, it becomes ambition, confidence, and calm authority. A man's life can only rise as high as the energy available to sustain it. Retention does not magically make a man great, but it gives him the raw material from which greatness is built. Without energy, discipline collapses. Without energy, vision becomes fantasy. Without energy, character erodes under pressure. Semen retention is the choice to stop leaking power and start accumulating it. The modern world trains men to live horizontally rather than vertically. Pleasure is everywhere, cheap, endless, and immediate. Pornography, casual sex, dopamine-driven entertainment, all promise satisfaction but deliver fragmentation. When a man organizes his life around pleasure, his ceiling drops. He becomes reactive rather than deliberate. His moods depend on stimulation. His confidence fluctuates with external validation. His ambition weakens because deep goals require sustained discomfort. Semen retention interrupts this cycle. It forces a man to confront desire without anesthetizing it. In doing so, he discovers something uncomfortable but transformative. Desire itself is not the enemy. Misuse of desire is. When desire is mastered, it becomes drive. When it is indulged, it becomes dependency. A dependent man cannot rise high. His life remains tethered to whatever feeds his cravings. A scattered mind cannot aim high. Many men struggle not because they lack intelligence, but because their attention is fractured. Constant release dulls focus. It pulls the mind toward fantasy, impulsivity, and mental noise. Retention reverses this trend. As sexual energy accumulates, the mind naturally seeks expression. If not released downward, it moves upward, into thought, planning, learning, and creation. This is not metaphor. It is lived experience reported by men across disciplines. With retention comes clearer thinking, increased memory and concentration, greater patience for long-term goals, reduced impulsivity. These qualities determine the height of a man's life more than raw talent ever could. A focused average man will outbuild a distracted genius every time. Every elevated life is disciplined, whether visible or not. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. It means choosing what matters most over what feels best now. Semen retention is one of the most direct forms of discipline because it deals with a primal urge. If a man can govern his sexual impulses, he can govern his diet, his speech, his work ethic, and his reactions. The order established in the body spreads into the rest of life. This is why retention often triggers a cascade of improvements. Better sleep, improved posture and presence, cleaner habits, increased respect for time. Discipline creates inner order. Inner order allows a man to build upward without collapsing inward. There is a quiet power that emerges in men who retain. It is not aggression. It is not arrogance. It is stillness. This stillness comes from not constantly chasing relief. A man who is always releasing is always leaking tension, and with it, purpose. A man who retains learns to hold still under pressure. He becomes comfortable with silence, solitude, and unresolved desire. This gives him gravity. People trust men with gravity. Women feel safe around them. Other men respect them. Leaders emerge from this quality, not because they demand authority, but because they radiate stability. The height of a man's life is often determined by how much stillness he can contain. Integrity means wholeness. It means your actions, values, and intentions align. Compulsive sexual behavior fractures integrity. It creates secret habits, internal shame, and self-betrayal. Retention restores integrity. Each day a man keeps his word to himself, his self-respect grows. Self-respect is not loud. It is foundational. Without it, success feels hollow. With it, even small progress feels meaningful. A man with integrity walks taller. His decisions are firmer. His no carries weight. His yes is reliable. This moral elevation translates directly into life elevation. Height is not just how far you go. It is how straight you stand while going there. Every great creation, business, book, movement, family, requires sustained creative energy. Sexual energy is creative energy in its rawest form. When squandered, creativity dries up. When conserved and redirected, it fuels innovation. Men on retention often report an urge to build, to write, train, study, design, lead. This is not coincidence. The body seeks expression. If denied physical release, it demands higher output. This is why many highly productive men, consciously or unconsciously, practice periods of sexual restraint. They understand that to create something tall, something lasting, they must preserve their creative fuel. A man's life reaches the height of what he creates, not what he consumes. It must be said clearly, semen retention is not about hatred of sex, women, or pleasure. It is about timing and intention. Repression is unconscious denial. Retention is conscious choice. A man who retains does not fear desire. He directs it. He decides when release serves life rather than weakens it. This distinction matters. Repression breeds neurosis. Retention breeds strength. The goal is not lifelong celibacy for all men. The goal is sovereignty. A sovereign man chooses when to give his seed, his energy, and his attention. He is not compelled. He is intentional. This intentionality is what lifts his life upward. Most men live horizontally, seeking comfort, distraction, approval, and ease. A few choose to live vertically, seeking growth, depth, mastery, and meaning. Semen retention is a vertical practice. It pulls a man upward, toward discipline, purpose, and self-command. It demands sacrifice, but it rewards with height. The height of a man's life is measured by the clarity of his vision, the strength of his character, the steadiness of his presence, the depth of his peace. None of these are possible without energy. None are sustainable without discipline. None reach their full expression without mastery of sexual force. A man does not rise to what he desires. He rises to what he can hold. Pressure, responsibility, solitude, temptation, power. These are weights. Semen retention trains a man to carry weight without breaking. When a man stops spilling his life force, his life begins to stand taller. His thoughts sharpen, his steps steady, his ambitions mature, his presence deepens. Semen retention does not guarantee greatness. But without it, or without the discipline it represents, a man's life rarely reaches its true height. What you preserve determines what you can build. What you discipline determines how high you can rise. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and share the video.